Hi, I'm Ray Chiaramonte. I'm the Executive Director of the Hillsborough County Planning Commission, and you're watching Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we have Ray Chiaramonte with us today. And Ray's been with the Planning Commission for 27 years with a short break, and then before that, another 7 years. So you're coming up on 35 years or so.
That's correct. It'll be 35 years, January 31st, which is when I'll be retiring from my position as Executive Director.
So if anything that we need to know about planning, you should know it by now, right?
I would hope so. I've been around a long time.
Well, first, how about describing both the Planning Commission and the NPO, which you also head up?
Right. The Planning Commission is kind of a joint agency. The Planning Commission was created in 1959. Sam Gibbons pushed the creation of the Planning Commission because he felt that planning was done very haphazardly in Tampa and Hillsborough County in the 1940s and 50s, and there needed to be an entity that was one step removed from politics. And it's only a recommending body. The Planning Commission makes recommendations to the councils of the cities and also to the county commission. And basically, it's to kind of vet long-range planning issues. I think his feeling was that we didn't look far enough out into the future as we were planning. It was more kind of, I think, who you knew or whatever.
That's how zonings
went through. The future is now, yes. And when I think of what Tampa looked like in 1959, I'm old enough to remember that, and how it looks now, we have definitely improved as a community, in my opinion. In fact, even in my wildest dreams as a child, I would not think we would have ever reached some of the things that we have done. So I'm a strong supporter of the Planning Commission, and I'm a strong supporter of long-range planning. Not every community has a long-range planning agency.
It's just Hillsborough County, right?
It's just Hillsborough County, correct. And there is a planning council in Pinellas, but it isn't as strong or large an agency as what we have in Hillsborough. But there's 4 appointed members to the Planning Commission board, 4 from Hillsborough County, 4 from the city of Tampa, and 1 each from Temple Terrace and Plant City, our other 2 jurisdictions. And they serve 4-year terms, and they're appointed by their respective governments to represent.
Just as these people are appointed by whom?
By the Board of County Commissioners and the Tampa City Council. And then by, I think at Plant City and Temple Terrace, it's appointed by their councils also.
And what kind of background? Is it just political connection, or do they need a particular kind of background?
They need to convince,
well on that board?
Not a particular background, although it tends to attract people involved in development industry or citizen or neighborhood activist type people, but also business people. And generally, the ideal is someone who really cares about the community and wants to serve to make it a better place. And we certainly get in depth into some important issues. So I think the Planning Commission can accomplish a lot if you have a good board, which we do now.
Now, what are some of the kinds of things that maybe started 10 years ago that we're seeing fruit coming to bear from the Planning Commission?
Well, 10 years ago, we were working on things like overlays. For example, South Howard Avenue in the city of Tampa was becoming very suburbanized, where it would end up looking like Waters Avenue. And we worked with the neighborhood on an overlay to reverse the frontage style of the buildings. So the buildings were built along Howard, so they had a pedestrian orientation. The parking was put in the back, and it has slowly changed the character. And now new development, if you remember what that area was like, it was largely abandoned or underutilized industrial. It wasn't that attractive. Now you're getting new mixed-use development that includes housing, restaurants, outdoor cafes, nice pedestrian-oriented things. Actually, it's almost so successful that so many people come there, it's created other problems that now we have to deal with too. But that's not
Which
bad
nobody
problems.
saw 10 years ago.
No, there was not too much traffic there 10 or 15 years ago. But we've tried to work with the governments to encourage what we consider good development, new communities that are walkable, that are mixed use, that you don't have to drive the car every place you go. Some of our new suburban developments have components of them that have walkability built in. A lot of that comes from the Planning Commission and ideas about how our neighborhoods could be made better. So those are the two things I think of. On the transportation side, we talked about the MPO. The MPO is housed at the Planning Commission.
And that means NPO is what?
It's Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay.
And those exist in every metropolitan area across the country. They're largely funded by the federal government. Purpose being that the feds don't want to spend money on things that the community does not want. So we have that together with the Planning Commission. Well, that's what they say, and I'll take them at their word. Sometimes
that's
it's
a
not
good
true.
thing if it works.
It's a good thing, yes. So the local community does have some power now over the routes of interstates or what we do from a federal perspective. It needs to be in the MPO plan. I have now about a 16-member board that includes 5 county commissioners, 3 Tampa City Council people, representatives from Temple Terrace and Plant City, and also from all the transportation agencies, Port Authority, Aviation, Expressway.
I would hate to have a bomb hit that building when they're all together. We'd be in deep
Yes,
trouble.
sometimes I do think about how it would kind of wipe out the leadership of our communities. We don't want any bombs in the building.
Yeah, look at the way our port is expanding and the way the airport, he's doing a fabulous job up there. Now, part of this authority then is looking at all of this?
Yes, we do review the Aviation Authority's master plan and have done that. You know, they're going on the right track as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of exciting things are going on now. We've noticed in the last year things have really seemed to pick up in the economy here, and a lot of new, you almost pick up the paper every day and see something new happening.
Money's becoming available again.
Yes, I think that's probably part of it.
Big of it.
I also think some things have happened to Tampa over the last 2 years, 3 years that have put us on the map a little bit more. And what's exciting about me kind of leaving my career there is I almost feel like there's enough momentum that it's going to go forward no matter what, you know, happens now. Where 20 or 25 years ago, that wasn't the case. The things that concerned me, like would we even protect our historic districts and all that, I think, of course, Ybor City is going to be protected now. Of course, Hyde Park is and all that, but that wasn't a given. One of the first jobs I ever had at the Planning Commission was documenting the houses in Hyde Park, where I got to go to the house, take pictures of them, take pictures inside. This is back in the early 70s. Hyde Park was kind of on the skids then, in all honesty, going downhill. And it wasn't a given that that would survive, but we recorded all that, and that was used to declare it a historic district by the late 70s, early 80s. And, you know, things like that now have a lot of momentum behind them and we take for granted.
This kind of history is important to preserve.
Yes, it is.
Somebody has to look at here. What appears to one to be a slum can be a whole different thing when you start looking at, what if we did this? What if we painted that? What if we upgraded this?
When you think about the things we could have lost, I remember when the Tampa Theater only survived by 1 vote on council.
Really?
In 1974, yes. One vote saved it from the bulldozer.
How does one go about prognosticating into the future like that?
Well, what we do is, right now we're working on we call it Imagine 2040. Usually work 20 to 25 years ahead. You estimate what the population growth are based on demographics of your community. We expect another 600,000 people in Hillsborough County, 400,000 more jobs. And you try to figure out, okay, where do we put them and in what kind of housing do we put them? What do they want? You have to look at generational differences. There's a tremendous difference in the millennials and the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. We have 3 primary generations now kind of running things in quotes, all working together in the workplace. And as far as the millennials and what they want in the future, so we have to look at directions they're going in to provide that.
What do you see as the major differences in those 3 generations?
Well, the baby boomers are actually now are at the older end of the spectrum, although there is a generation older than them that still exists. But they're a little bit more traditional, probably more oriented towards single-family houses and the things that our parents kind of taught us were the American dream.
Okay.
Millennials are less enamored. They didn't live in, like when I was a child, I lived in a city and then moved to a suburb as a child. Most of them have never lived in a city, and they're attracted to living in cities. I think a lot of the younger people, in all honesty, find suburbs.
A movement back to the city?
Well, because, right, the people left the cities because they were more industrial and all that, but now our cities really aren't like that much. There's no, like,
Wi-Fi
smoke or dirt, or there is, but not to the level it might have been in the 40s or 50s. So I think the younger people are less oriented toward driving than my generation is. Driving is down among 16 to 32-year-olds by about 20% over the last decade.
Really?
My daughter's a perfect example. We had to kind of make her get a driver's license, and then we made her buy a car when she started college, because her idea was, well, you'll just drive me and I'll work on my iPad in the car. She had no interest in driving. The car to a lot of millennials is nothing but a refrigerator. It's an appliance that you use. It has nothing to do with identity.
It's not a rite
Your
of
identity is your Galaxy 5, not Galaxy 500.
It was your, for us, it was a rite of passage.
Oh my God.
To get your driver's
my
license.
car
Can I
was
get my
everything, and
license?
I'm still like that. I have a classic 65 Impala that I love washing and waxing, but I don't see any desire with my daughter toward that at all.
What about the current generation?
Well, which one? There's three current generations. You got millennials, you have Gen Xers, which are between about 35 and 50. Then you have the baby boomers, 50 and up to about getting close to 70 now. Then above 70, you have the silent generation that's kind of the kids of the 50s, the teenagers of the 50s, I should say. So you've got those four generations who are all in the workplace now, which makes it a lot more complicated than it used to be, because what drives them is very different. And so you've got to plan for that also. That's why transit and transportation are such a significant investment, because we can't invest in infrastructure for people now, because the people living 20 years from now are going to be different. They're going to be at different stages in their life than they are now. Some of us won't be here. New people will be here. So you've got to try to anticipate what the trends are and figure that out. And there definitely is a trend. If you've noticed, like HART and PSTA, the bus lines, their ridership has gone up every year now for 5 years, regardless of the price of gas or whatever.
And that's the younger people.
You see a lot of younger people, and I'm an occasional bus user, and I was surprised I hadn't used in a year. When I got back on the bus, there was definitely more young people on the bus with their, iPads and whatever.
Some of them now, some of the buses have the
yes, that's
Wi-Fi
a big
and all
go.
that.
Right. Because you can actually, when I go on the bus, I can do an hour's worth of work
So
on the way home that I can't do in the car.
The one you referenced earlier, I just want to play with my iPad. You go ahead and drive.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of younger people like that.
Do we see that trend increasing, that fewer and fewer people want to drive?
Well, it still seems to be. I don't know if it'll go beyond a certain point. The millennials are very pragmatic. They don't have a problem with driving if it makes sense
Now, the
for the
millennials
trip
are
they're
where?
taking. Millennials are born from
35
about
to 50?
No, they're younger. They're the younger.
They're the younger
people.
ones.
They're
Which
like
generation is X?
That's like X is in the middle.
X is in the middle.
X is the one that has kids now.
Okay.
Baby boomers, most of our kids are out of the house or
Okay.
not. But if they're in the house, they're not
They
kids
should be,
anymore.
but they're
My
not.
daughter still lives with me and her husband, so I get that. No, the Gen Xers are largely the parents right now, and then the millennials they're parents, but they probably have little kids now or not any yet. They're like about maybe 15 to 35. Usually it's a 20-year span of a generation. And you have to understand every 20 years there's a different mix of the generations running the country. So things are different now than they were 20 years ago. The elected officials are different. They're from different generations. They think differently. I can see it in the way the Board of County Commissioners has changed and things like that.
Well, I guess the
yeah.
board's changed
Right.
substantially if you
Yeah.
look at some of the more recent votes.
Right. Well, now it's changing again. Yeah, it started changing in the late 90s, but now it's changing in a different direction because we have our first, for example, millennial planning commissioner. I kind of tease him. He's a young guy, 26 years old, that you know, is on my board now, and you know, definitely has a different view of things than some of the older members of the board.
What do you see as the future then? You're looking 25 years down the road. I'm the generation. I guess I was born in '40, so I don't know whether that's
okay.
a boomer or a silent.
You're a silent. Yeah.
But I believe in public transportation.
Right.
I really
well,
do.
Right. In every generation, what it is, it's the percentage mix changes, but there's always people that believe in everything. There's millennials that want to live in a suburban area and never go to, you know, but it's just the amount changes a little bit.
I don't like driving. I mean,
you know
I've been
what?
driving
Because
since I
driving
was
isn't
8 years old.
No, I've driven all my life, and generally I like it, but I don't like driving at rush hour, in the rush hour that we drive in now compared to what it was 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, it's not really driving, it's like your defense mechanism.
Right.
You know, if not someone crashing into you or you crashing into somebody in gridlock traffic. It's not pleasant, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way.
And I don't like airports. I mean,
well, our airport I like.
Joe has done a wonderful, and in all honesty, we moved here because of that airport, because I do seminars all over the world, and it was easier to get in and out of that airport than any place else in Florida.
Still is, right. It's
in fact,
airport.
most places anywhere in the world. So yes, Joe Lopano has done an excellent job down there, and the people who came before him did an excellent job. But it's still no fun to fly. By the time you go
the
through
flying
TSA
part,
and you go through all that.
Although ours seems to run smoother than a lot of airports I've been at. It
The
doesn't
airlines,
take as long.
when I first started to fly, the airlines had stewardesses that were my age.
Oh,
They still do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it has changed.
You wonder, could any one of those help anybody get off the airplane?
I don't know.
If there was a true emergency?
I think it was more of a luxury, just like cars were a luxury when they first started out. Yes, that would be good.
And I certainly, when I go to Atlanta or when I go to Salt Lake City or when I go to any of these cities that has transportation, I park my car and I ride.
Right. And I really think, I'm glad you brought that up, I think that is our biggest challenge. I think the concern that companies have in coming here is, what are you going to do about your transportation problem?
You get on Route 4 or 275 at morning or night, and you might as well bring along a picnic table because you're stop.
Yes.
It's worse than any of the cities that I drive through.
No, it's pretty bad. We're up there with the worst, no doubt about it. So we really have to think about where we go from here, because I think we're reaching a saturation point with the cars here. You can only widen roads so much. I mean, Fowler Avenue to me is almost too wide. You know, you're not going to do anything else to it.
Well, look at the malfunction junction they did down there, bringing Route 4 into 275 going over towards the coast. I mean, they bring it down to one lane. You got all these lanes, and they bring it down to one to get on. I mean, and I don't see what else they could have done. It isn't like they had plenty of choice.
Well, it's very expensive. Roads, some people think roads are free, but they're not.
No.
They're very, very expensive.
I had an argument with somebody when we were talking the last time about putting rail here. Oh, you have to subsidize it. And I said, what do you think happens with that street? You're not riding on that street for free.
All transportation is subsidized.
My gas taxes take care of it, but they don't.
That's still a subsidy, though.
But even if they did, it's not doing it.
No, they don't take care of it, though.
I don't know what the gas tax is here now, 41 cents, something like that?
I think altogether, but the federal gas tax hasn't changed since, like, I think the late 80s.
And at that time, I was getting 12 miles to a gallon on my car.
And now you're getting 25.
I'm getting 36.
Okay, that's even better. And that's what the problem is.
I mean,
the revenue's
same
going
street,
down.
same...
Right, and you're still wearing the street out in the same way.
So, I mean, something's got to give, I would think.
No, it's a huge problem across the country, definitely.
So what do we do?
Well,
you're in the long-range prognostication.
The long range, we need to start looking for other modes of transportation for what I would call choice riders, people that, like you said, maybe don't want to drive everywhere, but still obviously want to have a car. That's what we need to figure out how to do. We've had two interesting things happen recently. 2 years ago, we had the referendum in Hillsborough County that failed. We got a lot of good data and information out of that effort, doing focus groups after that referendum. Pinellas just had a referendum that failed, which is going to do the same thing, I think, in trying to do polling and understand why it did fail. And I think we need to listen to what people are saying. I don't think people are saying there's no transportation problem. I think they're saying that for a variety of reasons, those weren't the right plans, and we need to do better. I think we need to start out a little more incrementally.
What's the number one thing that you've seen from these focus groups of why people don't want what's been offered?
Okay. In Hillsborough County, number one issue or number two issue was at the time that we had the referendum, they did not have great trust in some of the elected officials.
Okay.
So it didn't necessarily have anything to do with transportation, it had to do with trust in government.
Okay.
The other issues were, why are you proposing a plan with 35 miles of light rail in it? Why don't you just try something smaller and see if it works? So basically saying, don't go so big. Let's try something. Let's go at it more incrementally. Another issue was it was an unfair plan. They felt like the majority of people live in unincorporated Hillsborough County who pay the majority of taxes, but most of the improvements were going into the city of Tampa. So fairness is an issue.
Okay.
So incrementalism, fairness, trust in government, I would say those are the three main issues. The fourth issue is a lack of understanding on the part of voters even in understanding how transportation's funded and how a rail system would work here. We have a huge educational process we have to go through, really, and it's going to take longer than just all of a sudden deciding you're going to have a referendum in 6 months. If we're going to have a referendum in 2016, we need to do that now, and I think the county commission is moving in that direction, and the county administrator are really trying to find out what are the projects that people want. Pinellas County, I think really it was a mistake to do a transit-only referendum. I don't think one would pass in either county. You have to give people what they want in their individual neighborhoods. So I think if you give people what they want, and it might be repairing potholes in one neighborhood, it might be intersection improvements, it might be street lights in some neighborhoods, it might be rail in the center of Tampa, connecting the airport and downtown, or connecting USF to downtown. Doing the right things in the right part rather than doing the same thing for everybody. That was our idea of fairness in 2010 was, okay, if we have a rail line going to all the major suburban areas, then everybody will be, well, guess what? Some of the suburban areas don't feel like they need that to the level that the city of Tampa did. It did vote for the referendum. It passed in the city. So we need to figure out, okay, what are your transportation needs there? So we need to do a better job of finding out what people want. And I'm thinking that a penny might be too much to ask at one time. We need to become more incremental and maybe think about a lesser amount. I looked at penny sales tracks across the country. They only, in best of cases, have about a 40% pass rate. So we already tried that once, both counties. So I think we ought to try something else.
The bad part, though, is that the voter wasn't educated. I had people tell me that the what were they saying? It's a 14% tax increase or something of that nature.
Technically, they're not lying saying that if you're raising 7 cents a penny.
But then the fools went on to say 14% of my income now would be this, and that would be going to that.
No, well, that's not true.
There's no connection. These people
did
not understand.
When you do that, you're giving people an easy target. We gave people an easy target because, in all honesty, should we do a penny, in my opinion? Yes. As a planner, I think that would be the ideal thing to do. But I learned after listening to the focus groups, perception's 90% of reality. It doesn't really matter what I think.
No.
It's what you can pass. And if we can't pass a penny, it's better to pass a half penny than to keep trying to do the same thing we fail at over and over again. We both tried it once and it didn't pass, so let's get real. Maybe use buses more, have a little bit of rail. I do think connecting the airport with downtown in the area where the hotels and convention center are makes sense. It wouldn't cost that much. I think we ought to look at repurposing the streetcar and make that part of a more modern light rail line and extending that to the airport.
I fully, that little bitty streetcar track is no real example of what it could be.
It could be 2.5 miles of what could be, but
Yeah.
not in itself. And it needs to operate the way they don't start running it till noon. I mean, that's not doable even for any of the people that live in Channelside or Ybor if they work downtown.
How much
to
does
even
it
use.
cost us across the CSX tracks?
In insurance, it costs $500,000 a year.
I mean,
The problem is
you could put a flagman out there.
Right, but then you get into politics because most other rail systems in the state of Florida, because they're more regional in nature, are under an umbrella policy that the Florida Department of Transportation has, but the streetcar isn't, because it's run by a private board which contracts with HART to run it. There's all kinds of, how could you say, things built in to put a drag really on the streetcar.
So it could be changed.
Yes, and I believe that it will. I think you'll see it change over the next couple of years. I think people have realized what the problems are, and
I mean,
it's
$500,000
especially if we're going to do some
that
huge.
one line.
Well, we can't change unless we get under another policy or we get the state to help us with that. That would be the only way. So if you make it part of something more regional, like connecting the airport, maybe something can exist that it could be transferred, in a way that can.
Ray, we have
alleviate
about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
With all your background and all your experience, what would you like to get across to the people out there about the Planning Commission, what you'd like to see happen? You've got 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about the Planning Commission that much because I think the Planning Commission has a good idea what direction to go. I think the people of this community need to understand that we are competing with other cities. Do we want our kids to have a job here? I want my grandchildren to be able to work here. I want my kids to be able to work here. The mayor's right when he says he doesn't want to lose his daughters to Charlotte or Atlanta, but they're going to go where the jobs and opportunities are. So if we want to compete, we've got to build our infrastructure. We've got to provide the choices the next generation wants. And we do need to have a better transit system. That's our weakest link. So we need to face that. Whether we ourselves want to get out of the car and drive, that is not the issue. The issue is what our future generations want to do, and we need to create a city where they want to stay in that. Just like our grandparents built the interstate system for our generation, we need to build something for the next generation that makes them want to be here and makes Hillsborough County be a prosperous place.
So many people think we can just do tourism. We just do tourism. But there's only so many places for maids, barmaids,
Right.
and bellhops.
And I'm glad we have those jobs, but we need other jobs because the other higher paying jobs are what drive. If you have a higher paying job, you're going to go out to eat more, you're going to do things, you're going to go to the beach more, which provides those jobs too. We need to go after the top tier jobs and get them here, and that's something that we haven't done the best job at, but I think we're getting better, and I think we're moving in the right direction. We just need to do it faster and better. We need to make sure we have the infrastructure that attracts those companies that have the high paying jobs and their employees.
Well, I tell you what, if I were looking at moving to Tampa and I wanted to put an office downtown, and the first morning I came to look at things and got stuck on that highway, would be the last day I'd think about moving anything to Tampa.
I think that some people say that and ask, what are you going to do about this? And that is a question that the companies coming here ask. And people that live here have to understand that we're going into the future and we've got to be competitive with the future, not now, the future.
I liked your statement that if you want your kids to work here,
well,
you've got to provide an infrastructure and a job base for them to stay here.
And I think we all have friends. I have friends that their kids have moved to Washington or other cities. They're not particularly thrilled that they've done that, but that's what happens.
But even tourism,
right?
They come here. You get out to the airport, and it's a great airport. Joe's done a great job on it. Lopano, he's done outstanding. The board, it's a great place. But once you're stuck out there, you're out there.
Right, unless you have a car.
Taxis or whatever.
Yeah, yes, I can tell you a story about that.
That's a whole new story.
That's a whole new story, right.
I'm delighted you were on the show.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm really sad
Thanks
to
for
see
the
you retire, but I know when you retire,
I'll
you
stay
won't
involved.
quit.
No, I won't.
I'm Bill Hodges. We've had Ray Chiaramonte on, and it's been wonderful to have you on with the Planning Commission, to be with her for so many years. Congratulations for all the efforts and things you put into it. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, and we'll catch you on the next Spotlight on Government. Again, Ray, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.